So let's get into our big political debate tonight. Can the opposition really unite to take on Mr. Modi in the 2024 elections? Is Nitish a face for opposition in 2024, or is he simply a face saver for himself? Is the Congress key to any opposition challenge? Is the BJP machine simply too well oiled for the opposition to fight it? These are some of the questions we'll raise. Pawan Verma is a former Rajya Sabha MP of the Janata Dal United, likely to be joining Nitish Kumar soon is the buzz. Shehzad Poonawalla is the BJP's spokesperson. Rohan Gupta is the Congress's spokesperson. I'll be joined later by Derek O'Brien, the Trinamool Congress's Rajya Sabha Parliamentary Party leader, and Jasmine Shah, Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson, also joins us. Pawan Verma, to you first, because Nitish Kumar, in a sense, is the center of all that has happened over the last 24 hours. He is meeting a variety of opposition leaders, and the impression one gets is he wants to create, by his own words, a broader opposition unity. Is this a spy in the sky? Is this Nitish Kumar trying to increase his own relevance rather than really have a concrete plan in mind to take on the Modi-Shah juggernaut in 2024?
Thank you, Rajdeep. I think part of the concrete plan is to try and get some organization, cohesiveness and unity in the opposition. Nitish ji has said he is not aspiring for the Prime Minister's post. So for the moment that is out of the way. What he is doing is to proactively try and bring opposition parties and give them a sense that if they are divided, it's advantage BJP. But if they unite, then the strength of the opposition is fairly formidable to build a pan-Indian front against the BJP. Now I concede what you have said, that the BJP is a well-oiled electoral machine. It has currently a narrative which is of Hindutva hyper-nationalism and some degree of targeted welfareism. The opposition needs first to get out of its silos and begin to think of the possibility of a minimum common program. If they can do that, then there are legitimate discontents on the ground. If ordinary people are hurting with the price rise, with the unemployment, as the BJP continues to be mesmerized with a kind of India Shining campaign, and never has India perhaps seen the level of inequality today.
Right.
So, thanks to certain decisions of the past and unforeseen developments like COVID, but demonetization, people have still to recover from it. The ordinary person is hurt.
Mr. Verma, I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr. Verma, all of this, none of this is rocket science. Mr. Verma, I've been hearing this from opposition leaders, we need to have a common minimum program, we need to get our act together, the only way to challenge the BJP is for all of us to fight together. Nothing has happened. Last year, Mamata Banerjee and the TMC was speaking this language. This year, it's Nitish Kumar. So only the cast of characters changes, but nothing else does.
I ask you, Rajdeep, that if previous attempts, well-meaning, have not resulted in the desired gains, shouldn't the opposition stop trying? Should it just sit and wait for the BJP to take advantage of a divided opposition and pursue its goal to power with the kind of agenda which they are pursuing, which we believe is not in the best interests of the country? So I think the opposition has to try.
Okay.
It is fragmented, and I am not saying the task is easy. What Nitish Kumar is trying to do is to make a beginning, 18 months before the election, of getting the opposition, in the light of the challenge it faces, on the same page.
Okay, let me take that to the other opposition parties before I come to Shehzad, because the Congress party is now heading for a Bharat Jodo Yatra starting tomorrow, Kashmir to Kanyakumari over 5 months. So forget opposition unity at the moment. It seems the Congress wants to first revive itself. Am I right? That for the Congress, the bigger challenge is how do we revive before the opposition gets revived? Rohan
See,
Gupta?
Rajdeep, it's not about revival. It is about uniting the country. We all know that BJP is still in power just because of two factors. One is hatred and one is their false nationalism. If these two factors are removed, BJP is nowhere. Last 8 years, I'll count all the promises, whether it is 15 lakhs or 2 crore jobs or doubling farm income or Sujlam Suflam or, running bullet trains, any of the promises, they have proved to be jumlas. The only factor which is in favor of BJP is their polarization and false nationalism. Bharat Jodo Yatra, the objective of Bharat Jodo Yatra is very clear.
No, here is Pawan Verma talking about opposition Jodo. You are talking about Bharat Jodo, and others are saying it is Congress Bachao. Let's be clear. Are you committed to opposition unity or not?
Absolutely we are. That's why I'm coming to it. Bharat Jodo, its objective is not only about Congress party. We have invited everybody, even civil societies, everybody to join this yatra. It's not about Congress party, it's about saving our nation. Today, if you ask me, what are the biggest partners of NDA? Even BJP spokesperson, can Mr. Sehdat tell me who is their biggest partner in NDA? Who is the biggest partner, Mr. Sehdat? Can you tell me?
Yes,
you won't be able to tell.
But the difference, of course, the difference, Rohan Gupta, is the BJP on its own is a majority party, which is not the case with the rest of the opposition. I'll come back to you. You're saying that y'all are saying you're committed to opposition unity. Jasmine Shah, Arvind Kejriwal also is on his own trip off to Gujarat for 2 days, 3 days, where he is taking on the Congress in a way in Gujarat. So is Mr. Kejriwal also on his own trip? All of you talk of opposition unity. All of you are trying to expand your own footprint. That is the reality.
Rajdeep, first let me make it clear that we are not part of any coalition. ये जोड़ तोड़ की राजनीति हमें नहीं आती है. What we do understand is how to take India on the path of becoming a developed nation. And that is what Mr. Kejriwal is going around the country and talking to the people of the country. He's been visiting Gujarat to talk about how to make India #1 country in the world. He's visiting Haryana tomorrow. He's visiting Rajasthan. He'll be visiting many other parts. And I think it is time that the opposition realizes that this mathematics to defeat the BJP is not the way, it's not what people want. People want hope. Every state that Aam Aadmi Party has swept is because people believed in the credibility of what we had to offer. They believed in the credibility of Arvind Kejriwal, and that is the message with which we are going to the people in the length and breadth of the country.
You have only one Lok Sabha.
At the same time,
the fact is in the last election you had only one Lok Sabha seat.
The nation is under attack.
Are you saying therefore you are ekla chalo re? Am I to understand you are ekla chalo re?
Democracy, elected governments are being subverted. And that is where, we need as opposition to work together. But eventually it's winning the hearts of the people of this country. And that will happen only if you can demonstrate that you can deliver on the ground. You can improve healthcare, you can improve education, you can improve all the things that matter to the people.
Jasmine Shah, are you I ask you again, are you committed to being part of some opposition front, or do you believe every party must really expand its own footprint? I want a straight answer.
Rajdeep, I cannot talk about other parties. Aam Aadmi Party is not part of any coalition.
Okay.
We do not do jod tod ki rajniti. We want to change the country, the trajectory of the country. We want to make India #1, and that is all that we care about.
Okay. On that note, Shehzad Poonawalla, there is some good news for you in a way, because the opposition seems to be at the moment talking about unity, but at the same time finding it difficult to achieve their unity, possibly because of conflicting ambitions. But is there a worry now among the BJP after what has happened in Bihar, that slowly but surely the opposition is also realizing that to defeat your party, you've got to come together? Chodo kal ki baat purani, aao likhe ek nayi kahani. Tell me, are you all worried?
Rajdeep, there are 3 on that side, plus your questions, and I believe an esteemed Rajya Sabha MP is also going to join you one-on-one, so I have 4 people to answer at least. So let me have adequate time without interruption. First of all, let me explain to you what is this exactly that is taking place in 2024. One hand, you have Prime Minister Narendra Modi walking on Kartavya Path with a mission and a vision, and then you have those who want to walk on the Siyasi Raj Path, and their only common factor is corruption, television, thanks to some friends, division, and ambition for position. Nothing else is common. The only thing that is common is the love for saving corruption, and all of them are together in that. My dear friend Rohan Gupta was asking me who is my biggest alliance partner. It's better to be in unitary confinement than to be in bad company. You may have the bad company, and let me expose each one of them. Nitish Kumar ji says that he was on the idea of principles. In 2017-18, when Lalu got convicted 4 to 5 times, he said that he is an icon of corruption. Today, will Nitish Kumar and his esteemed spokesperson continue to call Lalu Prasad icon of corruption? Will the Aam Aadmi Party call him an icon of corruption? Will they say that Lalu Prasad is an icon of corruption? Never will we ever come in alliance with anybody who is with them or with Lalu Prasad Yadav. Now let's come to the Congress Party. Congress Party को मैं एक सलाह दूंगा. भारत जोड़ो तो बहुत दूर की बात है. पहले गुलाम नबी को जोड़ो, शशि थरूर को जोड़ो, मनीष तिवारी को जोड़ लो और आनंद शर्मा को जोड़ लो. और परिवार को छोड़ो. पहले परिवार छोड़ो और इनको जोड़ो, फिर भारत को जोड़ो. The Janta has given us mandate in the last 5 elections. 4 states we won. Those who have not been able to retain even 5% vote share in Uttar Pradesh are saying Janta को जोड़ना है. Or otherwise they say the people of country only vote on negative issues or vote on because there is nafrat की भावना. Is that not asking, making a big statement on the people's wisdom? But this is particular of Parivarwadi party. Now let me come to the...
Are you not worried that as the opposition decides to unite in different states, Bihar being the latest example, it in a way changes the electoral dynamics? Does that not worry you at all? And today when you say that you are against corruption, you are being accused in Maharashtra of having toppled the government using money power. So that's fair, is it? Are we to say that the BJP doodh se duri hue? But more importantly, are you worried about the changing electoral dynamics as we head into 2024?
Firstly, to answer your first question first, elections are not a sum total of arithmetics, it is about chemistry. So 1 plus 1 does not equal to 2 in politics. Please tell me, this same predictions were made by many doomsday prediction analysts that Sapa or Baspa ek ho chuke hain. Now to BJP is gone from UP. What happened
ahead of 2019?
Ahead of 2019, what happened in that election? Now, this kind of alliance and gale milna of the leaders at the top does not mean that there is a gale milna of the people who follow them, because for so many years you are abusing each other, and when it is convenient, therefore I tell you, what is this alliance? This is an alliance of convenience, alliance of contradiction, alliance of compulsion, alliance of corruption, and alliance of collapse, because it's headed for collapse. I just have 1 or 2 questions. If the Aam Aadmi Party is so principled, I challenge the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson to take a position on Nitish, who is going and being in alliance with a Lalu Prasad Yadav, who is convicted multiple times. You are saying my party is corrupt on the basis of some allegations that you are making. No court proof, no orders also, but I have to answer for those. But those who are convicted corrupt, will the Aam Aadmi Party take a position? Secondly, because, you know, he may take a position, this is the picture that you should show. I wish this picture would have also been shown along with Arvind Kejriwal and Nitish Kumar's picture. It's a picture of Lalu and Arvind Kejriwal hand in hand. Is this a picture that the people of India, he should explain?
It's interesting that you all have started to target the Aam Aadmi Party
more
and more, but
just
let him respond.
10 seconds more.
Yes.
They say we'll come together on the issue of Berozgari. 31% is the Berozgari there in Rajasthan, and this is what happens in Bihar when you go to demand those 10 lakh jobs. The BPSC aspirants and the TET aspirants get beaten up by sticks when they have Tiranga in their hand. They will talk about unemployment.
Okay.
Then they talk about Mehengai. The highest Mehengai is in the state of KCR, Telangana. Please read the Times of India report. Fourthly, what is the position of the JDU today on Lalu Prasad Yadav? Do they consider him as an icon of corruption? I have the news report where the JDU has called him an icon of corruption.
Let me once again go to them one by one. Jasmine Shah, you first respond. Keep your answers short. You're being accused that while Mr. Kejriwal talks of anti-corruption, he has no problem in a way clasping the hand of Lalu Prasad, who was convicted.
And
we have never allied with any of the parties Shahzad has spoken about, and just hearing him talk about Bhrashtachar, you know, makes
you allied with Congress.
Makes me cringe. ED and CBI today have been reduced to bodies only to attack opposition without any evidence. 150 cases have been filed against us, absolutely no convictions. But गुजरात में आपके नकली दारू और शराब बिक रही है, वहां पे कोई सीबीआई ईडी रेड नहीं होती. In Madhya Pradesh, Rajdeep, just a couple of days back, the state auditor has found 110 crore का राशन घोटाला directly implicating the sitting chief minister. CBI and ED will never go there.
Okay.
Bundelkhand Expressway caved in 5 days after an expenditure of 5,000 crores. So it shows that BJP is never serious about corruption. When it sends CBI and ED to Aam Aadmi Party, it is only to
he has not answered if Lalu is corrupt.
Okay, no, he's saying that he's not aligning with the Lalu Prasad.
Then there's the alliance with Congress. When they did an alliance with Congress, was it wrong?
Okay.
Ask him that.
Okay, that is correct.
No, why?
Ask him.
Was your alliance with the corrupt Congress wrong? Yes or no?
Shahzad, you are not the anchor of the show, not yet. You might become one day. You might become one day, but let's hold on.
I am not the one to go back from politics into journalism.
Let me for a moment go to Derek O'Brien of the Trinamool Congress MP, who I spoke to a short while ago. Listening to what Derek O'Brien said. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. O'Brien. It seems at the moment that Nitish Kumar is attempting to do what Mamata Banerjee tried and failed last year, bring the opposition together. Is this Nitish Kumar now becoming the new mascot or the new magnet for opposition forces?
You normally don't make assumptions or wrong assumptions in your question. You just made one today about what Mamata Banerjee tried and failed last year. I don't know what you're talking about. But when did she try and what did she try which failed?
No, she was trying to imagine. No, Derek O'Brien, last year after her Bengal victory, she came to Delhi, she met Sonia Gandhi, met other leaders, and the belief was she was trying to become either the face or the magnet for the opposition. Now Nitish Kumar is attempting it.
Mamata Banerjee went to Delhi after the big win in Bengal, not because A, she wanted to show she was the face, or B, she wanted to be the magnet. Since you like cricket and I like cricket, you needed somebody who's come off a big win to energize the dressing room. Everybody in the opposition was down in the dumps in May 2021. And that's why, to use the cricket analogy, she went into the dressing room inside Parliament and outside Parliament to energize the beleaguered opposition parties at the time. And that's why 2021 was important. Mamata Banerjee has made it very clear, Mrs. Sardesai, in the past, she wants to be the squirrel in the garden. And that's her advice, in fact, to all opposition parties. Let them all be, first, the attitude has to be an attitude of squirrel in the garden. In other words, the first task is, what is the first task? Is to democratically remove Mr. Prime Minister Modi, who's been an incompetent Prime Minister on so many ways, on so many issues, and to pitch Mr. Modi against states, chief ministers, strong leaders in states. They will take on Mr. Modi because they are the competent ones, whether you go to Maharashtra, or you do Tamil Nadu, or you do Bengal, Telangana, and the whole lot. So it's not one Mr. Prime Minister versus one opposition candidate. And if you're looking for that photograph where all the opposition leaders put their hands up and clasp, which happened in 2019, no, that is not going to happen. That's not the best way to take on this Prime Minister.
So what you're saying is that you believe, or the Trinamool Congress now believes, that it isn't possible to have a national face against Prime Minister Modi. That's not advisable. You're saying each chief minister or each regional party has to fight the BJP in their own state. So that's a change in strategy, clearly. Clearly, that's the difference between 2021 and 22. Now you all are talking of regional fights against Prime Minister Modi because you've realized a national alternative is not there. That will only expose your disunity.
Let me talk about the unity first, since you quickly jumped into this term, disunity. Let me give you 3-4 solid examples of unity. In the parliament session, everybody was united. We wanted all the opposition parties. What did we want? And we put the government on the back foot. That's why they had to give us a discussion on price rise, because when they weren't allowing us a discussion on price rise inside the house, we took the dharna outside the house. Number two, if you looked at the Congress, Mr. Rahul Gandhi made a speech a few days ago, and I was listening carefully. His entire speech, 80% of the speech was what? Price rise. The messaging is the same. The messaging is happening. We may not be having meetings always. So we need to look at basically two broad issues. One, where has Modi failed not delivering in 2022? No houses for all, no demonetization was a disaster, agricultural income hasn't doubled, no bullet train. These are all his failures, which is now shifted to 2047. And against these failures, we pitch the positive of the state governments which have done well. Even with the state government today who's not in power, let's say Mr. Uddhav Thackeray. And I think the bigger point about, the third point and very crucial point about this opposition unity is when you talk about team opposition, and when I say team opposition, I mean all anti-BJP parties, team opposition, we need to look at who this team is. There is a team in Maharashtra, we believe, that's the best, that's the crack playing 11 in Maharashtra. That's the NCP, the Shiv Sena and the Congress. That's your team opposition in Maharashtra. In Jharkhand, in Jharkhand you've seen it, 48-0. That's team opposition. Where the left is there, the Congress is there, the JMM is there. There's no Trinamool there. That's the good team opposition. In Bengal, you have the Trinamool. We're going to fight all
What about the
42
left?
seats.
No, no,
Because the
in Bengal,
experiment
what
of the
about the
other
left?
team
Will you, this
The
team
left-
opposition, will you hold the hand of Sitaram
What about-
Yechury?
Of course not. I'll tell you why. Because now let's talk specific about Bengal. You've got to remember that 1 year ago, the Congress and the CPI-M in Bengal fought us together. They ended up with 0 seats out of the 294. Now, by what Mother Teresa logic do we just give away seats in Bengal?
Okay.
We don't. We fight all 42, and we can show you what we did against the BJP.
So you're saying, okay, so that was Derek O'Brien telling us that there will be regional fights. You know, Pawan Verma, look at how times have changed. You were with the Trinamool Congress a year ago. That time there was talk of Trinamool going national, Mr. Modi now facing national challenges. Now I hear more and more of you saying we will take regional fights. Nitish Kumar in Bihar, Mamta in Bengal, Uddhav Thackeray and Sharad Pawar in Maharashtra, Stalin in Tamil Nadu, KCR in Telangana. These will now be regional fights. Is this now a clear acceptance that you don't want to make this election presidential?
No, Rajdeep, let me say first on what my good friend Derek said. See, there is no contradiction between the two. Obviously, parties which have a greater presence in a state or a region have to strengthen themselves in order to take on, very often, the BJP. That's a goal. At the same time, at the pan-India level, wherever possible, I think the opposition parties should aim not for an arithmetic unity, but an organic unity which is based on what are the common issues which the opposition will raise regionally or nationally, which affect the common man on which the BJP has not delivered.
Okay.
Now, so I don't see a contradiction between the two. Secondly, quickly, you know, my young friend Shehzad was, I understand how he is speaking because hubris has its own blind spots. He was taking this moral high ground about the opposition in particular. I want to ask him, what kind of moral high ground is there when you interrogate the CBI when he is in the TMC, and when he moves to the BJP, he becomes your leader of opposition in the Sarda and Arda scam? What kind of moral high ground is that you run an agitation for months against Himanta Biswa Sarma for corruption, he moves to you, he becomes the chief minister. I ask you, these are important issues.
Sure. You know, this
The
has
BJP
been this
has
we
in
debated
its current
several times
cabinet,
about BJP being a
42%
washing machine.
have
But
criminal charges.
let me focus on strategies, because I have put out Nitish's game plan and Mr. Modi and the BJP's game plan. Nitish's game plan, according to me, is to bring the opposition parties under one alliance, focus on reuniting the old Janta Parivar across states, which is interesting, make other opposition parties accept the Congress's role, one-on-one contest with the BJP across the Hindi heartland, take a decision on Prime Minister later, win over fence-sitters like Biju Janata Dal and YSRCP of Jagan Reddy. Now that's, we believe, Nitish's strategy, reunite the Janta Parivar. Shehzad, the BJP strategy, and I want you to respond. Make the 2024 elections presidential, make it Modi versus who, focus on the 144 seats which the BJP lost last time to compensate for possible losses Bihar, Bengal, Maharashtra, Karnataka. Create new growth areas in states like Telangana, target regional parties by using Parivarvad, keep opposition as divided. Am I right? Have I got my game plan right or wrong?
You know,
your smile reveals it all.
Rajdeep, you have the liberty of obviously fantasizing about our game plan, but our game plan has always been only one, that we have to reach to every Indian, particularly the last Indian, and therefore for us it is creating an alliance between 140 crore Indians, whereas they have alliance between A, B, C, whom they used to abuse till yesterday. Today they are alliance partners. Now let me ask a few questions, because Derek is not here. Unfortunately, he likes to do this one-on-one. He said that let's become a little squirrel and be a part of it. Why didn't the little squirrel then support the effort in the vice presidential election? I wish you would have asked him that where was the little squirrel? The little squirrel suddenly developed the biggest ego when you asked him whether they can shake hands with the left. And this is what I am saying. This is not about who is a little squirrel or a big ego. This is only about the common thread of bhashtachar. This is a bhashtachar ka bhaichara.
So that's your one-liner for 2024. Bhashtachar ka bhaichara.
I'll tell you why. Look at the, and I'm sorry to say this, Pawan Verma, I don't take any moral high ground. I am talking about the legal ground. The legal ground is that Lalu Prasad has been convicted 4 times and none of the other names that you all spew on 9 PM shows like Rajdeep's have been convicted or even passed an order against by any court of law. Yet you won't take a position on Lalu Prasad Yadav. Jasmine Shah, who had avoided questions yesterday about Manish Sisodia's corruption, came today very happily, but the moment I asked him, is Lalu corrupt? He went all around the place but hasn't taken a position that yes, Lalu Prasad is corrupt, and by implication anybody who touches Lalu Prasad is also corrupt. That also he won't say. He will not take a position on Satyendra Jain, who's been in jail for the last 3 months, not got bail, not got any relief. But here's the question that I'm trying to ask. You know, all of these formulas have been tried and tested. Rajdeep, in the 90s you used to be a younger reporter. The days of Inder Kumar Gujral, Deve Gowda, Congress supporting from outside only to keep BJP out, these days are over. This politics has changed. Unfortunately, some panelists still belong to that school of politics. They have not realized that politics has changed.
You know, that's an interesting point, Rohan Gupta. Politics is changing. People don't want a khichdi anymore. You know, when Rahul Gandhi is now seen with Nitish Kumar, the same Nitish Kumar who till a few months ago was very much with the BJP, people will say these are opportunistic alliances. I won't go into Bhrashtachari, but I'll say Afsarwadi. Majboor Sarkar versus Majboot Sarkar was even the slogan last time that Mr. Modi used. How are you going to break that if you are going to do these coalitions?
Rajdeep, please allow me some time because the second time I wasn't given a chance. See, Majboot doesn't mean that it should be against the people. You tell me, with so-called Majbooti, have the people of country benefited? No. They have seen note ban, they have seen GST, they have seen price rise, they have seen corruption. So who has benefited out of this Majbooti? Achhe din is only for BJP leaders. When I was asking Shehzad that who are your NDA partners, because the biggest partner is now 4 independent MPs. There is no big partner because each regional party has burnt their fingers with working with BJP. It is a question of their existence because what BJP
says, Rohan Gupta, that India has moved from coalition governments now to strong single party governments.
No, may I just answer this?
1 minute, let him respond.
Rajdeep, let me complete, please. Yes. Let me complete. I am saying simple thing. What is people of this country now know that so-called strong government is not benefiting them. The so-called strong government is giving them extra power which ensures that people of country are suffering. We are doing operation without giving anesthesia to people of this country.
Okay.
So all the steps, whether it is farm laws, whether it is note ban, you tell me, is there any consultation? They have bypassed the parliament.
Okay.
Their power is so strong that they are not concerned what people will think or what will be the reaction of people.
You're saying what is seen as a strong government is becoming increasingly an authoritarian government is what you seem to suggest. Yes, Jasmine Shah, very quickly.
Rajdeep, even in Delhi, when the BJP last fought the 2020 assembly elections, they said कि triple engine की सरकार आएगी, triple engine की सरकार आएगी. What did the people of Delhi do? They give them 8 seats and 62 to the Aam Aadmi Party. Today, BJP stands for corruption. It stands for luche lafango की सरकार, and people who have absolutely no vision, no agenda, but to unleash CBI and ED on those political parties and governments which are actually doing some work. Today, Arvind Kejriwal is the only opposition leader talking about let's fix our schools, let's fix our hospitals, healthcare. What do you hear every day in the news that BJP about? कि यहाँ पे CBI raid कर दी, यहाँ पे ED raid कर दी, इसको थाने में डाल दिया, उसको थाने में डाल दिया. But if you join BJP, you suddenly become clean.
I've got limited point. You made that point.
Gujarat, where
you made that point about Gujarat earlier, but you know, Shehzad, very quickly, the fact is, does Mr. Kejriwal worry you out of all these leaders that you are seeing at the moment? Somewhere I find in the BJP now increasingly a desire to target Kejriwal. Is it either to build him up to divide the opposition vote further, or because he is seen as someone who may be capturing the very vote that Mr. Modi and Shah eye? How do you see? Is Kejriwal your biggest fear? Quick answer.
No, Kejriwal is not our biggest fear. The only people, they've all got together, they are all cut from the same cloth. Today, Kejriwal's icon and mentor is Lalu Prasad Yadav because they won't call him corrupt. Secondly, let me tell you, who are our partners? Our partners are the 140 crore Indians. Our partners are those who have been working tirelessly to make this country great along with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Yes, we don't have partners like Lalu Prasad Yadav and we are proud of that. But I have a simple question to ask. I have a simple question to ask
You've
Jasmine.
said that several times.
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead now. One last, quickly.
Jasmine remembers the assembly elections. What happened to the same party in the Lok Sabha elections? Because people of this country are very mature and they vote maturely, differently in elections in assembly, differently in elections in Lok Sabha. My simple question to Jasmine Shah is that they say that they are going to fight against Prime Minister Modi. Ask the Congress party representative, does he accept the leadership of Nitish Kumar? Ask the Congress party representative, does he accept the leadership of Arvind Kejriwal? Ask Arvind Kejriwal if he accepts the leadership of Rahul Gandhi. This is going to happen in 2024. They are only going to die for the position, and we are there for mission and vision.
System. Are you saying that? That's why I said you want to make this election Modi versus who? And that therefore gives a final word to you, Pawan Verma. Will 2024 become Modi versus who? Is that in a way the challenge that the opposition has, localized the election? The moment you make it presidential, it's advantage Modi.
I concede that Mr. Modi has a personal popularity and the opposition has to find a face, a narrative and the organization skill to take on the BJP. I concede that. But I think BJP spokespersons should understand what the leader of their own party, the Prime Minister, has said, that a democracy needs a strong opposition. So why are they so opposed to it? As far as the reasons they are giving for the opposition to be disunited, that's precisely what we are trying to put right.
Okay.
And as far as the fact that the opposition only is corrupt, I want to ask Mr. Narendra Modi's much more beyond corruption, question the DNA of Nitish Kumar. And then in 2017, he happily aligned with the JDU and Mr. Nitish Kumar and said he is our face in Bihar. So let us not take the moral high ground.
Okay,
there are weaknesses on both sides.
No, that
is not beyond it. But there is an attempt. And I'll tell you one last point, Raj.
Yeah, but let him finish very quickly.
Unless there is legitimate discontent, unless there are reasons why the people of India are less than happy compared to what the BJP thinks, there are reasons, but they need a voice to bring it to fruition.
Okay.
And that is what an opposition is meant to do.
We'll wait and see if that
platform.
So what you are saying is a possible platform at the moment that the opposition can create for these voices of discontent, as you are calling it. Shehzad Poonawalla, you've been more than good enough.
Nitish Kumar is a probation CM. Tejasvi has given him a timeline that you are on probation, sir. Find a job in Delhi.
Because he doesn't have any plans, but
have to often leave under the RJD Raj and go to other states to find a job. Mr. Nitish Kumar is a probationary CM because those who called him Saap and Kechula are now telling him ki khursi khali karo.
Chaliye, Afsarwadi Rajniti, as they call it in India, opportunism is the only ism that seems to survive at the moment. I appreciate though my guests joining us as we build up to Mission 2024.